Dude, this banquet is unreal. I'm telling you, I'll be hosting things like this till I'm 60, maybe even longer. By the gods, I know. There's nothing like a good bacchanalia. I'm off to fetch more wine. Be right back. Dad?
Before crafting the exordium, the reader must decide in what manner they wish to present the case: honorable, difficult, mean, ambiguous, or obscure. This case seems best presented as ambiguous, one in which the point for decision is doubtful, or the case is partly honorable and partly discreditable, so that it inspires goodwill as well as ill will. The exordium should present the facts of the case clearly to the audience, putting them in an agreeable state of mind.
Esteemed judges, my father has fallen into madness. He parties like a young man, drinking and dancing in excess. I beg you, speak reason to him. This is unbecoming of his age. First, we have Cato the Elder, a man renowned for his wisdom and steadfastness. His reputation for discipline is unmatched. How could he condone such reckless behavior?
This behavior is shameful. A man of his years should show restraint, not indulge in such frivolity.
And there is Livia Drusilla, an empress of incomparable dignity and intellect. Surely she can see that such actions are beneath the standards of Roman virtue.
This is a matter of great concern. I will carefully weigh both sides before making a judgment.
Lastly, Mark Antony, a man of great power and charisma, renowned for his leadership and prowess in battle. I implore him to consider the consequences of indulging in such excess.
Come on, Cato. A little fun never hurt anyone. Life's short. Let the man enjoy it.
Cato, Livia, Antony, I stand before you today to defend myself against the accusations brought on by my own son. My son has called me a madman, has decided to prosecute me for actions he deems deplorable. But let this be known. The actions I have partaken in to receive the label of debauched are only replicas of my son's behavior. You see, my son has gone down a dark path. He has filled his time with drinking, gambling, and promiscuity. It's taken a toll on our once close relationship, so that I feel disconnected from my only child. In order to understand him better and hopefully rebuild our relationship, I began replicating his practice. Rather than seeing my ability to change for him, my son took offense and deemed my actions shameful, chosen to prosecute me for the same habits he has been taking a part in for much longer than I have. It hurts me to stand here, fighting against my own kin, but I must also defend my honor, and hopefully show you, my son, that this debauchery was for his own good.
The narration is an exposition of the events. It should include the events, but also the character of our actors. The narrative should possess great vivacity, contrast of characters, suspicion, desire, dissimulation, sudden change of fortune, and other embellishments.
When my son was born, it was the true beginning of my life. He was my proudest joy. Growing up, we were inseparable. He was my shadow. I did my best to impart the proper Roman values and virtues of duty, courage, loyalty, and honor. I tried to instill pieties within my son, emphasizing a strong sense of responsibility. I taught him such practical skills to contribute to the state, such as farming and domestic work. We would work in the fields together, showing him the value of hard work. I would tell him stories of heroes who would embody these skills. He was always a very compassionate child, always eager to help his mother. He would help family at home and strangers on the street. But after his mother passed, it seemed like something had changed. He was no longer the bubbly child who would eagerly wake up to help me with the morning chores. But he grew up and made friends with the wrong people. They were degenerates who drank and gambled. They wasted their days visiting brothels and overindulging on luxuries. They partied and influenced each other in the worst ways. Before I knew it, there was this chasm between us. I would ask about his days and he would shut me out. I would attempt to keep our traditions, but would be ignored. I tried everything I could to regain the tight-knit bond we once had. Tensions began to rise, and suddenly he was a stranger to me. I was at the end of my rope. I knew I needed to find his way again, so I thought long and hard about how to help him. Finally, I decided he needed a wake-up call. If If he couldn't realize his irresponsible behavior had consequences, I would have to show him. I didn't have anything to lose. I just wanted my son back. So I started to engage in the same behaviors he does. I started drinking, gambling, and wasting my days. Only after I mirrored his actions did my son respond to me. He called me mad, an unsound old man, but he is a hypocrite. It pains me deeply that he thinks I would participate in these activities for pleasure alone. What hurts even more is knowing that he is wasting his life. I have always wanted the best for my son. I understand this is an unconventional parenting approach, but I would do anything to help him.
Cicero outlines two forms of partitions. The first focuses on the issue raised, and the second is a methodical statement of topics. The first approach should state what is agreed upon, and then what is the controversy that should be decided. Similar to the narration, Cicero writes that it should be brief, complete, and concise.
It is agreed upon that, looking at the actions of the father, they are indeed shameful and not fitting for a man of his stature. Yet, what we are to make of the son who accuses his father of madness while engaging in the same disgraceful acts himself. The son holds no moral high ground here.
Indeed, it is the height of hypocrisy. The son calls his father mad for doing what he himself does, drinking, gambling, wasting his time in indulgence. To criticize the father while indulging in the same behaviors, it speaks to his character, or rather, lack thereof.
While the father's actions are shameful, they come from a place of love and concern. The father does not seek pleasure in his own indulgence, he seeks to show his son the consequences of his own actions. What the son sees as madness is, in reality, a painful attempt to wake him up from his reckless ways.
Cicero's advice for a strong confirmation is to increase credibility and support the case. Confirmation, or proof, is the part of the oration by which marshalling arguments lends credit, authority, and support to our case. He suggests focusing on two main sources, depending on the case: attributes of persons and attributes of actions.
Now let us examine my character and intentions. My son accuses me of madness, yet my life has been defined by principle, virtue, and devotion. I cherished my wife and raised my son with Roman values. I built an honorable reputation free from scandal. My life has been one of diligence and honor, while I have remained steadfast and devoted to him and our family. Why would a man of such character suddenly abandon his principles without reason? When my wife passed, I bore the weight of the grief for both of us. But as my son grew, he strayed into the life of vice. I fear nothing more than his ruin. Knowing unchecked indulgence only deepens over time. Could I call myself a father if I stood by silently? My actions were not madness, but a deliberate and desperate attempt to save him. These actions were born out of love and necessity, not madness or indulgence. I mirrored his behavior, not for my own pleasure, but to show him the consequences of his choices. It was a torment to sacrifice my reputation and honor to be done to save my son from a life of misery and regret. Would it have been better to abandon him entirely? His mother would not have let me, and as his father, I could not live with myself to let him slip through my guiding hands. And here we are. For the first time, my son finally sees me enough to object. This confrontation proves that my actions have begun to reach and influence him. I know that these actions are unorthodox, but as a respected father, I had to try anything possible. I acted not for self-indulgence, but to fulfill my duty as a father. Judge me not by appearance, but by the love of a father willing to sacrifice everything to save his child. I acted with courage and love to save my son from himself. I ask for your understanding and compassion.
A rhetor can undermine an argument by challenging its fundamental assumptions and by constructing a more compelling argument.
A father's duty is to shape his son into a man of virtue, not to let him stray into indulgence. The son's vices are not merely his own failings, but the consequence of the father's neglect. Had you taught him properly from the start, he would not have fallen so far.
Is a father solely responsible for the actions of a grown man? Is it not my son who bears the ultimate responsibilities for his own choices? You blame me for his failings, but have I forced him to drink, to gamble, to squander his inheritance? No. He has chosen his own path, and now he must face the consequences of those choices. I have strived to guide him towards a virtuous life, teaching him moderation, discipline, and respect. and yet he has chosen a different path, one of self-destruction. In a desperate attempt to sheer him away from this ruin, I have sacrificed my own reputation and honor. Through my own excess, I have shown him the bitter fruit of unchecked desire, the emptiness of a life devoted to pleasure. I have prayed to the gods that he would see the truth and return to the path of virtuous and Anastasia.
While I understand your pain and the love you have for your son, I must tell you, you should not have gone to such extremes, to indulge in the same vices that led your son astray, to damage your own reputation in the process. This was not the way of a man of honor. Sacrificing your dignity, your integrity, does not help your son. It only brings you both further from the path of respect and honor. You could have found another way to guide him back to the right course without tarnishing your own name. Your actions, though driven by love, have only caused more harm.
The public hypercritically commends my excess while ignoring my son's similar behavior, applying a different moral standard based on age rather than action. We must question this double standard. I have earned my wealth through years of hard work and sacrifices. It is my right to enjoy the fruits of my labor. A man my age should be commended for his accomplishments, not condemned for his enjoyment of them. My son, on the other hand, has squandered his inheritance without contributing to society. While it is true that some youthful indiscretions may outgrow, we cannot rely on this hope. Many individuals continue their extravagant ways, leading to severe consequences, and even if the extravagancy ends, the damage to reputation, relationships, and finances may persist. Therefore, it is crucial to address such behavior proactively, rather than passively waiting for a potential change.
His actions, though extreme, show a father's devotion. If we were to judge him, we must also question the hypocrisy in how we view the son's behavior. Both have indulged, yet only one is condemned.
Indeed, it is clear a father's duty is to guide, not to control. If the son strays, the responsibility for his actions lies with him alone. While his methods may have been unconventional, the father's love and desperation are undeniable. One cannot simply disregard the consequences of inaction. The peroration is the end or conclusion of a speech, typically intended to garner enthusiasm or support from the audience. Cicero's advice for the three parts of a peroration is as follows. Start by giving a thorough summary of the situation, followed by the incitement of indignation or ill will against the opponent, and finally, the arousal of pity or sympathy for the one we are defending.
I ask you all, consider what you might do. Years you spent raising your son as best you can, alone. Together, you weather the loss of a wife and a mother. Alone, you watch as your son descends into indulgence. His vices a raft upon which he floats. At the start, you wave off his behaviors as folly of youth. You reason with yourself. Does your son not deserve this? A respite from tragedy that beset him too young? Surely he will grow into the man you know him to be inside. In this way, you soothe your anxieties. But as he ages, growing from boy to young man, not abating, but increasing his wild revelry, and you begin to wonder where you went wrong. Each night he comes home, long past the setting of the sun. He wakens reeking of perfume and alcohol. You love your son, but ache to see him make a fool of himself. You see your hard-earned wealth leaving your son's hand in momentary satisfaction. But instead of anger, you feel only apprehension, not for your future, but for his. Imagine you try and speak to him, man to boy, father to son. Imagine you pray to the gods, your wife, what to do, you fret, and then an idea. Show your son exactly who he is to become by becoming the person yourself, a living martyr. Put aside pride, judgment, trust yourself in your finest clothes. Tarnish your name, rid yourself of wisdom, sense, honor, embrace humiliation. Endure the sneers from fellows that once respected you, the mutterings of age and sanity. Survive as your son loses affection for you and begins to curl his lip in disgust. Through it all, never lose sight of your goal, returning your son to himself. So I stand here before you all now, judges, my dear boy, imploring you, borrow my eyes. See the small victory I can achieve even in my son bringing me here today. My son, who has not spoken directly to me in a fortnight. If all I receive from this ordeal is his acknowledgement of me once more, I will take it, and gladly. But in his accusation of madness, there is a mirror. He wishes to condemn the defendant, yet acquit the crime, because it is his crime too. Permit me now to respectfully speak above the opinion of the judges directly to my dear son. Your charges against me prove only one thing. My love for you exceeds my love of self. I beg you, my boy, to consider all I have said, and to beg you to come home.
Father, I see now. I thought you abandoned me, but you were trying to save me. I was too blind to understand the love in your actions. I can't blame you anymore. I was wrong. I promise to change, not just for myself, but to honor you.
I never stopped caring for you. My only wish for you was to find your way back to who you truly are.
Only one is condemned.
No. I didn't realize he had another line.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's
hold
kid.
on.
It's you.
Mine's covered by the little icon. So I can stay. Take 3. You kind of threw it below him, but I think that's okay.
Yeah, you're a kid, so you're stupid and like bad at it. So that's fine.